Okay, welcome to it's the fourth meeting of the Senate Finance Appropriations General Government Subcommittee. Clerk will call the roll.
Senator Pillion?
Yes.
Senator McPike? Senator Eben? Senator Marsden?
Here.
Senator Servo?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mike. So we have a sign-up list. What I got right here is Deeds, Durant, Aird, Deestead, Van Valkenburg, Boysko, Diggs, French, Perry, and Salim. So we'll start off with Senator Deeds, who's got, I think, Senate Bill 633.
Senate Bill 633 is another effort to catch us up with our biggest rival, West Virginia. It simply says that in criminal or traffic cases, the court can waive the assessment of fees against that they're assessed to an indigent defendant. Reality is, a lot of times those fees just add up. They don't get paid. They just create a burden for the person. And a lot of times when they are acquitted, or a lot of times when they're guilty, they the fee is uncollectible anyway. That's simply what the bill does. It gives the court the ability, the discretion.
Okay, Senator, I think I think there's an estimate here that our revenue loss would be something like $12 million on this bill. Is that right?
I don't know what the estimate is, but I'm certain that there would be some loss.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Senator Deeds? All right. So I know there's some concern about how we're going to come up with $12 million a year, given the way our budget is right now. Have any thought about how we're supposed to come up with the $12 million we wouldn't collect if we did this per year?
Well, I just know that in West Virginia, I think that the costs aren't assessed at all. They aren't assessed to the defendant, and West Virginia can figure it out. We can figure it out as well. And what I resisted I resist going the whole West Virginia route. I left it up to the judge to decide whether the indigent defendant is indigent enough or has enough resources or may have enough resources to pay the cost.
Okay. Well, Senator, I think this one is similar to a lot of the bills we have on the docket today about court-appointed fees. I know Jay Lark did a big study on that, and I think the net budget effect, I want to say, is somewhere north of $25 or $30 million or something like that when you take it all in together.
Well, I've got half of it then.
You've got half. Court-appointed counsel has half. Termination of parental rights has another huge chunk. It's not even a bill, but in the budget. So I think there's a sense that we probably need to take some time to digest what Jay Lark has given us before we figure out what to do with it.
Okay.
How to solve it all collectively. So I think we're probably going to need to look at it over the next year. Yeah.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Senator Pike moves. Senator Marsden seconds to carry the bill over to 2025 while we try to figure out how to deal with these issues. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Senator Deeds, anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. That's the recommendation, unanimous. Senator Durant, thank you. They also lead us in school funding a lot, too.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Senator Durant, you got, what is it for what?
408, Mr. Chair. So this would reduce the annual registration fee paid by charitable organizations. Right now, it would, I think, represent about a 41% reduction in fees collected for charitable organizations. The statute, they're collected by, the fees collected required by statute are used to finance the administration operation of this act, and there's a surplus right now. So,
Sorry, Senator, I got you at 401, not 408.
I had 408.
No, I'm going to go back and get a different folder.
401. Okay. My apologies, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, you want to go back and regroup and...
Yep, just temporarily.
Okay.
Get the right bill book. My
Yep,
apologies.
that's fine. Yep, okay, then I got Senator Aird. Is she here yet? She is 3. Okay, then we got D staff 301.
Morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee.
Good morning.
Senate Bill 301 is pretty simple, and I don't believe there's a financial impact the way we've rewritten it. It allows any person or committee to have the right to appeal the civil penalty assessed on any campaign late filing. So basically, it puts an appeal process in. And I'm certain there's no financial impact on this one.
Right, and this is just for late filings of campaign, anything?
That's
basically?
correct, Mr. Chair, just campaign filings. And an example is if somebody's on active duty or treasurer's away on active duty, he can appeal it to the board and say, hey, I was away on active duty. If there was a death in the family or a death of a spouse that goes longer than 5 days to settle it. We had one in Yokosuka, Japan for one of the treasurers. They went over to Yokosuka, came back, they missed it. So basically those types of matters. Again, it gives the board the opportunity to look at this and any campaign committee or member to be able to appeal and have an appeals process.
Okay, Senator, I think Senator Marsden has a question.
Thank you, Senator. To staff, do you know about how many fines are issued in a given year? Do you have any notion of how many?
I know this last, Mr. Chair, Senator Morrison, I know this last year there were like a little over 2,000 fines that were issued. And I don't know how many of those were specifically to this, but I can tell you that a majority of them were for people on soil and water conservations who don't raise any money, who don't spend any money, and just failure to file a report. And some of those fines were upwards of $6,000, $7,000. One of them was a lady who had been on the board, Soil and Water Conservation Board, for like 8 years, never filed a report, but she doesn't use a computer, she never raised money, she never spent money, and there's no appeals process.
Senator, this is just civil fines, right? Not just
Correct.
the money side, that's it, right?
That's it, and the Commonwealth doesn't build our budget based on
Right.
fines and penalties.
So, and I don't think there was found to be any kind of fiscal impact from this.
It's
Okay?
a basic American principle to be able to appeal something.
Yeah, it's actually a matter of due process.
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
Second.
It's moved and seconded the bill be reported. All those in favor say, or recommended for reporting. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Thank you, Senator.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you.
All right. Durant, you regrouped yet, or you want to take another couple minutes? Okay. 401.
Yes, 401. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, this bill, Senate Bill 401, increases the amount of leave time for guard and reservists for their weekend drills and annual training. Currently, the Code of Virginia allows for 21 days of leave based on an 8-hour workday, and firefighters are unique in how their shifts are structured. It's a 24-hour shift, so the consequence for those who have reserve duty obligations is they've somehow, if based on how their shifts might work, they might end up having to pay out of pocket with personal leave or just have to take the hit on it. So this adjusts based on the hours so that they will be able to get at least close to having their 2-week annual training covered. So that's the crux of the bill. And I do have some people here too.
So, Senator, this is a bill that I guess provides that anybody who's employed as a professional firefighter can receive paid leave when
Yes.
leave of absence is required for military service?
Correct.
Okay. And,
Mr.
do you have some concern that other types of professions might want to also be included in this kind of policy if we start, this kind of Christmas tree going?
We talked about that pretty extensively with Delegate Hummer and some of the stakeholders. They have different shifts. They can be 8-hour, they can be 12-hour, but if we end up expanding this, and it certainly was amenable to having that conversation, but you could end up having a windfall for those who have a different shift. They could end up potentially getting upwards maybe toward a month. And so we certainly don't want to get into a situation where there's a windfall created, especially if this is, going back in our localities. So this strikes at that unique situation with those 24-hour shifts. For those who have, a different one, an 8-hour, 12-hour, currently under code, they're still going to be able to get that paid leave, which is, covered for that 2-week and perhaps even some of their weekend drills, but certainly don't want to get into an excessive amount. So I think that's why we were trying to keep it narrowly tailored to those who have that 24-hour shift.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Senator Durant? No other questions? Okay.
I
And
do
I-
have some folks from the Firefighters Association are happy to kind of,
Right, but I think that's probably already fully heard in committee, right? You were already fully heard in committee, right?
yes.
Yeah, I think the object here is more to vet the bill for fiscal impact. Like
Yeah.
I said, there was a concern that this could bleed into other professions that might want to partake in this
Mr.
benefit. or
Chairman,
might
I would
be-
imagine that police, although,
Yeah, when we had discussions, when we were formulating the language for the bill and whether or not to, they've got different shifts that could, when it comes to impact on localities, they could end up, if you're going to conform that to the hourly one, they could have a significantly amount more time paid. And I think you're looking at from a standpoint of an equity on how this uniquely impacts firefighters.
Right. Right. Well, so does anybody else in the committee have concerns about how this might affect other professions?
Mr. Chairman, this seems to be pretty much geared toward those that do 24-hour shifts, so making up for that loss, I don't know that it would be a significant thing. I can't think of anybody else. I've heard of 24-hour shifts in California, they do a 40-hour shift at juvenile corrections facilities. But
Oh my
I haven't heard
goodness.
of 24-hour shifts in anything else that
Yeah.
I'm aware of. 12 hours in sheriff's departments, things like
Yeah.
that.
We ran the hour numbers because there's a lot of, when the first draft came, that potentially you could have a real windfall with those who are deployed. So, this was structured specifically because if you have those 24-hour shifts, they might have a day on and then they've got a day off. And so it really depends on how your schedule line up so that it's getting a little bit closer to at least being able to get those 2 weeks. For the rest of the folks, they should still be in a good posture to be able to get their 2-week annual training and then maybe a little bit more.
Okay. Any further discussion? Anybody got a motion? We got 18 more bills.
Mr. Chairman, move to report.
Move to recommend.
Recommend.
Okay. Okay, any further discussion? All right, it's been moved that we recommend the bill for reporting. All those in favor say aye. 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 Okay, and anybody opposed? No, okay, the bill is recommended for reporting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members.
Next, I got, still no aired, Van Valkenburg, you got 3.
Yep. Hello, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Do you want to just go in order? 196?
Sure.
All right.
196.
So Senate Bill 196 is focusing on the quality of data that Department of Elections uses when they're looking at taking people off the voter registration rolls. Last year there was a big incident where elections reported that 3,400 people were wrongfully purged from the state rolls. So what this bill does is put standards in place that they have to meet before any data source can be used for list maintenance purposes. The second thing that it does is it creates an expedited review process in the courts if somebody's been purged off the rolls and they think that they shouldn't have been, so they can go to their local courts and make their case that they should be back on the voter registration rolls. Happy to go into any more detail that you want
Mr. Chairman,
with it.
Senator Evan.
I would just point out that it has an indeterminate fiscal impact and it's really just installing a procedure for making sure that voters are not inadvertently purged. And I would like to make a motion, and unless there's other discussion.
Really quick, Senator, I think this also is in response to, I guess, the administration's decision to leave Eric. We have to make sure we have some other processes in place to ensure that our data and these new processes that are theoretically being developed are accurate and
Correct.
keeping our lists up.
Correct.
I would move to report.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We recommend for reporting. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, Senator Van Valkenburg, next up, you got
428.
Yeah,
Yep, thank you, Mr.
428,
Chairman,
yeah.
committee. First on this one, we need to move an amendment, which is a technical amendment that ensures that when we do our risk limiting audit from the bill we passed 2 years ago, that these ranked choice elections wouldn't count towards that risk limiting audit process. And so that's what the amendment is to this bill.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. We adopt the amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? No.
Okay, so 428, I think, is mostly kind of a cleanup bill of the local choice elections for ranked choice voting. It does two things. One is it ensures that all localities can participate if they choose in ranked choice voting by allowing for local or constitutional officers to be part of the process. The second thing it does, and I think more important thing it does, is the Department of Elections wrote a report after the election cycle saying that the code needed to be updated for ranked choice voting. And so this bill seeks to implement the solutions to the problems that they suggested. I can go through the in as much detail as you'd like, but it's about where to store election materials, how to provide for secure delivery of election materials, the final tabulation to the public, how to report ranked choice voting results because they're different from regular ones, how to outline the steps taken by election officials to ensure about when there's a damaged ballot, and more. And so it does those things. Be glad to go into any details you want, but I would also note that once again, there's no FISC related to it.
Senator Evan.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think Senator Van Valkenburg just hit the key words, which was there was no fiscal impact, and this was a recommendation of the Privileges and Elections Committee. And with that, I would move that we recommend reporting.
Okay, and also I think this one's, thank you, Senator Evans, is there a second? I also think it's a little different. We have another bill that's later on the docket about ranked choice voting. This one is just a local option bill. It doesn't mandate or require anything. Is that right? So, local option. Yep, local option, that's right. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor of recommending the bill for reporting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Nobody's opposed. Okay, Senator, you got one more. I think it's 6 something.
Last one is
606.
Senate Bill 606. And Mr. Chair, members of the committee, this one's pretty straightforward. It says that we're going to rejoin ERIC, which we should do for election security purposes.
Okay, and Senator, I think I have a budget amendment that requires the exact same thing, I think.
And I do too. Yep.
Oh, okay, great mind thinks alike. Any discussion about rejoining ERIC? I think there's, what, a $25,000 fiscal impact?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Sounds right.
Okay, it's been moved to recommend that we report 606. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Got it. No no's. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator. Next up, I've got, is Boysko here yet? I didn't see her yet. Oh, Aaron showed up. Okay. Called you 3 times. You're high on the list. I got 480, 81, and 94.
Yes. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. May we start with Senate Bill 480?
480, public utility disconnection policies.
Yes,
I remember
thank you,
this one
Mr.
coming some later,
Chairman.
yep. Okay.
Following the substitute that we passed previously in the policy committee, it removed the reporting requirements as well as the civil right of action language, and it's my understanding that removing such would have eliminated the fiscal impact. So I wanted to make that note right at the top.
This is on 480?
Yes,
Right, so the bill doesn't have a fiscal impact right now, right? It's not.
that's it, because of the language that we removed.
Got it. Okay. Okay, so this bill basically makes were we like the only state in America that doesn't have this or something?
That's correct. And this ultimately codifies SCC study language that took place back in 2022 after the first attempts to pass this. And so we took much of that information and incorporated it into the bill.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Senator Aird, I think you solved the problem of that potential glitch where you could pay once and then not pay two times.
That's correct.
That got fixed. Okay.
Thank you.
I think this is fine. Second.
Any further discussion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The bill be recommended for reporting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Okay. Next, you got up 481, which has to do with abolishing
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
fines and fees.
Yeah, I believe there is an amendment to this legislation that was adopted conceptually in courts to make sure we took out all of the traffic infractions. We did say that we would make sure that made it into this version along the way, so I just wanted to note that as well.
Okay. I don't think I suspect the fist that the bill, if it ever got one,
No, this.
probably didn't incorporate that change, right?
Yeah, that was just, I just wanted to make sure that this version, and I see a shaking of the head from council, that I do believe we picked up those removal of the traffic infractions in this language. And, you know, regarding the fiscal impact, the figures that OES provides of roughly, I think, 500,000 annual relies on a couple of assumptions. First, that the collection rate is 60%, when in fact, it's been told to me that the rates might possibly be lower than that. So I just wanted to make that note as well.
Fiscal impact in this, it's approaching $900,000, I think, right?
I have it a little less than that, around 500,000.
Okay, I think if you add them, well, the one I'm looking at, this is 462, 424 per year, 886, 953 total, and I think staff is concerned there might be additional impacts that are beyond what's reflected in the actual FIS itself. There's a whole series of these bills that we have this year. I think there's 6 on this docket, and I think there's a thought we could maybe look at this over the interim to figure out how to deal with all of this, along with the court-appointed counsel issues.
Understood.
Okay. Patron seems okay with looking at it over the year.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved to recommend that we carry this over and have Senate Finance Committee, OES, and probably the Crown Commission as well study this over the next year. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. 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 Anybody opposed? No. Senator, you've got one more, which is
Senate Bill 494,
494,
Mr.
yeah.
Chair. And this one is regarding domestic care workers. And you had asked for an amendment be added regarding an exemption for all payers. And so I'm happy to accept that too.
okay. Hold on, Mr. Kinnaman. I can't remember if you looked at that or somebody else did. I thought somebody else looked at it, told me that au pairs are already excluded because of the way something's defined.
I had originally said that, Mr. Chair.
And-
That's what I was told.
Yeah, and so the au pair amendment isn't necessary, right? And we made that in committee, though, right?
We did not, because I said it was not necessary, and you did a double check, and we
Okay, I think I had somebody prepare it for this committee, but it turned out we didn't need it. I think that's what happened, so, okay.
Fantastic. And so, Mr. Chairman, with that action, again, this is really about making sure we make domestic care workers eligible for overtime pay. Under current law, the domestic workers are excluded from those labor rights. And so that's what we're attempting to do with this legislation.
The bill, I don't think the bill has a fiscal impact, right?
It doesn't.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Senator Evans.
I would just note, it said in the notes that the Department of Labor and Industry can handle any increased workload resulting from inquiries that may result from the impact of the bill. So with that, I would move that we recommend reporting.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. The bill be recommended for reporting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no.
I thank the committee.
Thank you, Senator Aird. Next, I got, I think it was Diggs. He's been here the longest. Is he here? Yeah, he was here first, I think. Yeah. Diggs, you've got, huh? Oh, Bagby's outside. Okay, Senator Diggs, you've got the Attorney General taking over some local prosecutions, I think, right?
Not quite, but
With their consent.
yes, sir. So this bill expands the authority of the Attorney General to investigate, prosecute, certain crimes involving children. It only expands the jurisdiction involving sexual assault of a minor, and one other similar crime. And it really helps in an expansion of a case that would involve that the Attorney General already has jurisdiction in of child pornography and sexually explicit materials. And as you'll notice, there's no budget amendment necessary and no fiscal impact. And you are correct, it's with the concurrence of the local Commonwealth attorney.
Okay, Senator, I know there was some concern, we talked about this, about the AG taking on some additional workload. I understand that it's up to their option, it's their option, but it's kind of surprised that AG can take on more cases without any kind of cost at all, but I guess the AG really wants this, but.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator.
Senator Diggs, would this improve, do you think, local Commonwealth attorneys to be able to deal with matters that going across multiple jurisdictions? A lot of this kind of thing, doesn't just happen in one place.
You're exactly right. It helps in that situation where there's multiple jurisdictions involved. And also it's kind of like the spinoff of a case. You may be working a child pornography case and find that it actually involves a sexual assault or other issues like that, and just kind of tidies up the whole investigation. And again, it's in concurrence with the local Commonwealth attorneys. Sometimes they certainly would appreciate the help, especially things that cross multiple jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, who was first, Eben or McPike? Eben, you go first.
Well, I was just going to say that this may be something that, if it had sufficient cases, would result in the need to hire more attorneys for the Attorney General, and maybe we should carry it over and look at it more carefully.
Senator McPike, is that what you're going to say?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I had the same concerns as Senator Eben, moved to carry over to take a look at the long-term fiscal impacts of potentially building out an office suite associated with this effort. So,
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Senator Marsden.
I think we need to sort of take the Attorney General's word for it that, he's got the capacity to do this. And I think we could deal with it if he comes in later looking for this. But I just don't see the harm in doing this.
Okay, sounds like we have a split of opinion. So it's been moved and seconded, we carry the bill over. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed?
Aye.
2 noes. Note the noes. Okay, so you're recommended for reporting 3 to 2.
Thank you, sir.
You ought to be in full.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. It was recommended for carrying over 3 to 2. Make sure you're in committee. Thanks. Okay, next up, I've got, so everybody out there understands where they are. We got French, Perry, Salim, Favola, Owenshane, and Bagby. I think French has been here the longest. I know Boysko walked in. She's on the list as well. Came in after French, at least I know. So why don't we go, Senator French, why don't we go with you, and then I don't know who came in what order. I guess we'll just go back to the list after that. French.
Good morning, Mr.
You've
Chair.
got what?
Senate Bill 646.
646. Okay, this is criminal injury compensation fund for, I think, sexual assault victims, right?
Yes, sir. 646 ensures that passage of time will not be the barrier to when a victim can file a claim with the Virginia Victims Fund in cases involving sexual assault as a minor. The state program created to help victims of violent crime with out-of-pocket expenses. Currently, for cases involving sexual abuse of a minor, the claim must be filed within 10 years of the minor's 18th birthday. Victims.
So Senator, the policy we vetted in the Courts of Justice Committee, we mainly look at the fiscal impact here. The impact we got was indeterminate, up to $35,000, and you did not submit a budget amendment, but Doesn't look like it has a huge impact. What's your view of that?
So, you know, it's funded by fines and fees collected from offenders in addition to federal grants. But to my knowledge, there's no Virginia tax dollars are used. So I don't think there's any physical impact.
Okay. Any further discussion? No. No, but there's no fiscal impact. Right? Okay, it's moved and seconded. We recommend the bill for reporting. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Senator French, next time.
Thank you.
If your bill talks about money, make sure you put in a budget amendment.
All right.
Got it? All right. Perry is next. And, let's see. Oh, did I skip Favola? Oh. Yeah, Favola, Williams Graves, you guys didn't get on the list. So Senator Eben has written you on the list up here. So Perry, 3, 5, 6, court-appointed counsel. This is the biggest one we have today, I think, in terms of money.
You're welcome. I also have an amendment in the nature of a substitute for my Senate bill. I don't know if everyone up there has it or not.
We do not. It's been moved and seconded. We adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. What does your substitute do?
The amendment or the substitute just adds juvenile appeals to circuit court were left out of this, but they're included in there now. They were included in the JLARC study. It's just a draft error. And Mr. Chair, what you have before you is basically a combination of what Senator Perry just described and also a committee substitute.
Okay, can you describe what's in the committee substitute piece?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So the goal was to kind of be cognizant of budget concerns. And so what the substitute does is it changes, raises the caps, but not to the extent that they were in the bill that came over from courts of justice. So for juveniles, they would be 445 would be the cap. DWI misdemeanor 240, other misdemeanors 240, other class 3 through 6 felonies would be 525, and class 2 and elevated class 3 to 6 felonies would be 1,320. So again, this is in between current law and the bill as it came over from courts of justice, and the total estimated fiscal impact is about $2.9 million annually.
Okay, so you've gotten it from 22 to 27 million down to 2 some million. Okay, and how much did you reduce these caps by a percentage or by? I don't remember what caps we approved in full committee versus what you got here. I have it. Can dig it out. Do you remember?
Mr. Chairman, I may lean on either JLARC or the Indigent Defense Commission. As it came over, it was 100%, and I'll let them kind of speak to the framework of the bill as it stands before you.
I got it. So compared with the court's sub, we went from 440 to 240 on district court misdemeanors, 597 to 240 on juvenile misdemeanors, 906 to 445 on juvenile cases, 2256 to 1320 on circuit felonies, 1125 down to 529 for other felonies, and then other circuit court cases to 445. So it looks like about half the caps we had at a courts. Does that sound about right, roughly?
Mr. Chair, yes, that's roughly right.
Okay, because of the way the cases shake out proportionally in their numbers, it reduced the fiscal impact by about 80%, it sounds like.
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
All right, yeah.
There's a question.
Senator Marsden.
Do you feel, Senator Perry, that this would take some pressure off of public defenders?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Marsden, the issue is a little bit less about taking the pressure off public defenders. The issue is for the cases that the public defenders are ethically excluded from. Are there other attorneys who can pick up those cases? You have to put your name on a list, right? To be able to do it, you have to have certain qualifications to even be on that list. And so the issue is that we just are running out of people who are on that list because our caps are so incredibly low. The attorneys that I know who handle these cases typically do them, and I have done them myself, pro bono. It's difficult for more than one attorney on the most complicated cases to get paid from the Supreme Court, and most of these attorneys who are handling these cases are actually paying to handle them. And what I mean is that they are having to expend their own funds because we are just so out of line with other states that pay for these cases. And so the concern is my judges routinely send emails begging the bar to please put attorneys on this list. Please, someone step up. But it's just really hard for folks who have to make a living to be on these lists. I think we're down to a small handful up in Loudoun County. I know different jurisdictions are very different, but just for the courts, just for the committee's point of reference, the $120 cap for misdemeanors that's currently in Virginia, that means that's the most you can make on any misdemeanor offense, class 1 misdemeanor offense. Those are DUIs, domestic assault and battery, stalking cases, violations of protective orders. Those cases, the cap in Virginia is $120. That means no matter how much time, energy, or effort you put into that case, the most money you can possibly get out of it is $120. For reference, most attorneys charge between $300, $400, $500, $600 an hour for their work. In surrounding states, the cap for misdemeanors in Tennessee is $1,000. In Washington, D.C., it's $2,000. In Maryland, it's $3,600. And in West Virginia, it's $4,500. That's how far behind we are. So I guess the answer to the question is, if cutting these things in half, will it make more attorneys be on the list? The answer is maybe. We are so far behind the 8 ball on this that it may not make a big difference. I know the committee has to decide how to slice and dice, but this continues to be a quote unquote priority that we just continue to not fund.
Senator, so our state has been noted for how poorly we pay court-appointed counsel for a long time now. I think I put a budget amendment in probably about 6 years ago because the waiver fund kept running out of money, and lawyers weren't getting paid at all for their waivers from like April through July, which made it even harder to get people to do cases, and people started strategically sending their cases for sentencing on July 1st to make sure they got paid. In the situation, I agree with you, there's hardly anybody that's doing this work anymore in lots of parts of the state, not just Nova. And the other piece is termination of parental rights pays $120 as well, and having a budget amendment for that. There's a massive amount of need in this area. But I think with your amendment, we at least got it down to a manageable number for this budget cycle, but going forward, we need to figure out a way to prioritize this. That's it's been moved and seconded that we report the bill. Recommend we report the bill as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is there anybody opposed? No. Okay, Senator Perry, that's it for you, right?
Yep. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah, Favola was probably here first. Yeah, Bagby's on my list. Yeah. Kabar. Salim's here. Yeah, and Salim, and I got Williams. Okay, I lose track out here. Been looking down a lot. Salim, you got what? 315.
315. I can start with that one. Yep.
Somebody wrote down 649, but I don't think I see that on my list.
Yeah. So I have 2.
Does anybody else have 649? We don't have 649.
Nope.
Yeah, so you're only here for 315.
315. Yeah, we were told both of them would be there. Since 649 does have a fiscal impact.
We don't have 649.
Okay. I can go on with 315. So 315.
You don't want us flying blind on something. You never know what we might do. So just let's stick to 315.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I just want to, apologize to Senator Salim. I had moved that this be referred here. It has no fiscal impact. I just wanted to ask him if he'd spoken with the advocates and if there was anyone opposed to this bill.
Mr. Chairman and Senator Evan, that is correct. So we did speak to the advocate. The only issue was that when we made the substitute, they didn't have enough time to review the bill. That was the only issue. So they have since then read the bill, have not expressed any additional concerns to it.
Okay. So I would just point out, Mr. Chairman, that this bill was heard in Privileges and Elections, and there's no fiscal impact listed. So unless there's more that people want to ask.
I think what Senator Evans is saying is he's really sorry he caused you to lose 30 minutes of your morning.
Made you get up to be here at 7. I apologize.
I understand.
I think I heard him say he's recommending the bill for reporting.
Yes.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded the bill be recommended for reporting.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. No. Oh, one no. I'm sorry. One no. All right. Then I got Favola, but there's no number written on the sheet because.
Senate Bill 87.
87. Okay. Health insurance provider panels.
Right, Mr.
No
Chairman.
fiscal impact.
No fiscal impact, and what this does is, I think, articulates a value we all agree on. We're asking that value-based insurance arrangements actually, between a carrier and a primary care provider, promote comprehensive screening, use of evidence-based tools for mental health needs, and appropriate referrals by the primary care practitioner. So the whole incentive here is to ensure that mental health services are acknowledged and available at the site of the primary care service. No fiscal impact that I'm aware of. I have two notes from the SCC, and each note says no impact.
Okay,
So
Senator, I think you're in pretty good shape. Does anybody have any questions? It's been moved and seconded. We recommend the bill for reporting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next. Yeah, Williams Graves brought me coffee, so she gets to go next.
Good morning.
You have three, I think, right?
I have two.
Oh, two? Okay.
SB 514 and SB 654.
Okay, I remember we just heard these in courts of justice.
We did.
Okay. Why don't you do 514 first?
Yes. Senate Bill 514 reduces the period of limitations for the collections of court costs and fines from 60 years to 10. And that period starts at the date of release.
Okay, so Senator, I think the way this comes to us is in 2018, I think Senator Norman carried a bill extending the period to 60 years due to incarceration. You want to back it up to 10, and we compromised on 20 in committee, I think. Or no? 30?
We were at 10, but what we compromised on was that the statute of limitations,
That's
the period
right.
of statute of limitations did not start until
Till you got out of
the
prison.
release. Exactly.
Yeah, right, okay. And I know staff looked at this and has suggested amendment to not affect existing deferred payment agreements that have already been entered into, and that's the amendment before us. I think Senator McPike moved, and Evans seconded, we adopted. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed. So this amendment just makes it clear that we're not affecting existing deferred payment agreements that are already
Okay.
been signed by people. So, and you did submit a budget amendment.
I
but
did.
There's, the fiscal impact is, I think, small. It's only about $70,000 to reprogram some computers. So it's not a big deal, I think. Are there any other discussions?
I would agree with you. That's not a big deal.
I'm sure you do. Any other questions for Senator Williams Graves? Yeah. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that the bill be reported for discussion. All those in favor say aye. 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 Okay.
No.
One note, one no. Sorry, I should ask for your no's. Let's see. Next up, we got 654.
Yes.
Which, let's see, similar theme.
Yes. Senate Bill 654. There is.
Okay, we have another amendment, which I think is identical to the last one, just to make clear that we're not affecting any existing payment agreements.
So moved.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We adopt the amendment to make clear we're not affecting existing arrangements. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? No. So Senator, with that, I think it's the same thing.
Simply just moves the time period from when collections start to when a person gets out of jail, because what we have now is a collection period that can start when a person is in jail, and then they're sent to collections. Then there's an additional fee added when they're in collections and they're in jail and they're unable to pay. So
Okay. And I think I got the fiscal impact backwards. I think the computer programming was on this one and not the last one. But the last one, I think, had even less of an impact. So.
Same posture, move to report.
Second. But we did second. We recommend the bill for reporting as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Billion opposed. Okay. Got it. Okay, Senator Williams Graves. Don't think just because you bring coffee, your bill's going to pass.
I was going to say I'm going to bring Senator Pillion coffee next time. Thank you.
All right, next up, I got open. Sue, are you Superman? You signed up? Supermine's been here the longest, right? I don't know. You're not on the sign-up list at all, but Eben's been keeping the list here as people wander in, so. Okay, Supermine, why don't you come next? Then we'll do Open Chain and then Bagby.
This is SB 270, Mr. Chair, and this is ranked choice voting for presidential primaries. That wouldn't apply obviously until 2028, but this does have a kind of a complicated fiscal impact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we noted that.
Essentially, it looks like staff has noted that it could be a little tricky to implement, that it would require localities as well as elect to basically set up the system. It's an option right now for parties, so if either party or any party desires to use it, they can. If they decide not to, then they wouldn't, and then obviously wouldn't need to do it. But I believe that there's a couple different parts of this. The first is that it could require 11 different RCV tabulations and statewide tabulations to be completed. Noted that Virginia has unique implementation challenges, and one vendor plans to have some of the functionalities in the future, but currently it doesn't have it, and there's 4 vendors across the state. So it is, I think we ended up putting in $1 million budget amendment for this. I don't know if that was just a placeholder, that was to just be safe, but I'm happy to take.
Yeah, so Senator, wouldn't this require basically every elections office in the state to have to redo their software to be able to handle this stuff? Because I mean, there's like what 130 jurisdictions, and none of them are set up to tabulate all
Yes,
their precincts.
Mr. Chair, I believe. I don't know to the extent they would need to redo things, but I know that it would require localities as well as the elect to have to be prepared for this if a political party so chose. That's why we're giving it 4 years, but I understand.
So, Senator, it strikes me that, I mean, there's a lot we don't know about exactly how to pull this off, both in terms of expense and software code, et cetera, or how long it would take. Obviously, we're not doing it for this presidential. We have 4 years to figure it out before the next one. I mean, it strikes me that, maybe slapping a reenactment on this with a direction to the registrars to tell us what the cost would be of implementing this so we can make a fully informed decision might be a prudent way to proceed in that,
Second.
Is that fine?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if anyone from elections here, but I think the reenactment solves my main concern. But is anyone from elections here today? Okay, I think the reenactment gives us 3 years to figure it out.
Yeah, a couple, something like that, yeah. Does that work for everybody? Okay, so my thought and concept, I think, was moved by somebody to my right and seconded by somebody to my right. All those in favor of the amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, it's been moved. We recommend the bill for reporting is amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
A reenactment and a direction to the registrars elect to give us some info. Yeah. I think Kinderman got that, right? Mr. Kinderman got that? Okay. All right. Bill's recommended for reporting unanimously, right? Yep. Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
All right, you're all done. I think Open Chain and Boy Scout, I keep not noticing you because you're sitting in the back. But why don't we do Open Chain and then we can get to you, okay?
Mr. Chairman, I have the Public Safety Communication Infrastructure Fund. This is an unfunded fund to set up that hopefully will be funded in the future. This is a screaming need for communities under fiscal stress and small rural communities who are struggling to pay for their safety communications infrastructure, one of the most expensive capital investments that many of these localities have to make. The public safety land mobile radio communication systems are incredibly expensive, and this sets up this fund that is administered by the I guess it's administered by Virginia Resources Authority. And originally, we had set it up so that it was administered by the Emergency Management. VRA is equipped to do this, and it's going to provide loans and grants on a competitive basis to communities based on primarily need and fiscal stress.
Okay, so this.
It does.
That's right. It's an unfunded fund that needs a budget amendment to fund, and oh yeah, we have a committee substitute. I think staff suggested to create a fund and provide grants and not loans.
I'm sorry.
Provide grants and not loans. I think is the committee proposed committee sub. Okay, it looks like Senator Obenshain was nodding to that. It's been moved and seconded. We adopt the substitute. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I guess the funding of this will be up to the budget process later, I think is the idea. So.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I guess question for staff maybe. These would be eligible items that are not funded by the 911 fund and the 911 board eligible items. How does that sort of break down between what can be funded through this versus not?
Yeah, I don't know that these are connected to the 911 fund, but I'm not sure. I don't have an answer to that.
Well, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, I think Senator Eben has a question for staff.
I have a question because there's a $232,000 administrative cost to set up the fund, but what if there's not grants or we don't obtain money for the fund? We'd be paying $232,000 a year to keep it alive?
Mr. Chairman, no, that administrative cost, and Senator Eben, would only be if we put funds in the program.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this is not without ample precedent. We set up for example, the Interstate 81 Fund without funding it. We hope that it'll come. I can tell you that I have one jurisdiction, Page County, that desperately needs to upgrade its emergency communications system. Doesn't have the money. And we have been looking for grant money to help them, and it's just not there. So hopefully we'll be able to find a way to help communities, and not just rural communities, but there are some urban communities with similar needs.
Senator McPike.
One of the things I know that I worked on and did probably 3 or 4 years ago on the 911 fund is to make sure that prioritization happened first on regional efforts also. There's a lot of different investments that happen because of artificial boundaries called cities and counties that communications clearly go beyond those borders, and I'm not sure if that's fully embedded in this, but I'd like the senator to take a look at that as well to make sure, like, if we're putting in dollars, they should first go to things that cover multiple counties and have that collaboration. Some of these contracts are extraordinarily expensive if you do a one-off.
Sure.
Versus if you leverage multiple counties to solve the same issue. And some of it gets into constitutional officers wanting their own widgets versus collaboration.
I would hope that if this is set up and funded, that that kind of collaborative effort would be more attractive to those who are making the grants. Sounds a little like Go Virginia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd ask maybe to staff, maybe we can find some tweaks to the language to make sure that's reflected in the bill as if it moves forward.
Okay. Are there any further discussions about this? Is there a motion? It's been moved and seconded. We recommend the substitute, the bill's amended as for reporting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Okay. That's it. Yep. Thanks, Senator. Okay. Next, we got Boy Scout, then Bagby. Okay, got it. All right.
All right.
Boy Scout, you've got 374 collective bargaining by public employees. This is the, I think, collective bargaining for localities.
This is the collective bargaining for the state and localities for
Oh,
public
state too.
employees. SB 374 builds on our 2020 collective bargaining legislation by ensuring that our dedicated public service professionals have the fundamental right to join unions and engage in collective bargaining regardless of their zip code. It is a matter of fairness, freedom, and the well-being of our communities. There is a fiscal impact for the legislation, and we can talk about that if you want to, but I want you to remember that collective bargaining doesn't guarantee any outcome. It guarantees a conversation. The state and the localities continue to retain the power of the purse. They will not have to agree to anything that they can't afford. So the executive body, the legislators like us, have the final say on funding issues as it is current practice. Collective bargaining is not restricted to conversations around any one thing like salary. Workers can also negotiate things like working conditions, class size, planning time, staff ratios, standardized discipline process policies, and up-to-date equipment. Stronger public services should be a goal for all of us, and I know it is. They can attract more people to our state and localities, increasing the tax base and creating opportunities for more and more families to thrive by having good schools, strong public infrastructure, and more. Collective bargaining will make Virginia more competitive by improving morale, recruitment, and retention. Collective bargaining is a critical employee retention tool that reduces turnover, which would in turn help localities reduce those costs. This bill, as I carried in 2020, creates a Public Employee Relations Board. It's called a PERB, and that provides an infrastructure for the state and localities to conduct collective bargaining in a consistent and a fair way. The PERB is like an umpire. They would oversee representation of elections. They would identify bargaining units. They would mediate labor and management disputes. Standardizing the PERB will actually save localities money from having to figure it all out on their own how to set this up. In Charlottesville, for instance, the city spent $685,000 when it hired a Washington, D.C. firm Venable to draft an ordinance. This law precludes the need for an ordinance. In Albemarle County, we saw the school board vote down a collective bargaining resolution because the board members felt there were more guidance needed from the state. That's what the PERB would do. This bill is an investment in our workers. It is an investment in the critical services that they provide. Virginia voters have also made it clear that in a recent CNU poll, it is time for lawmakers to pass this bill with 68% of the voters voting to saying that they expand collective bargaining expansion.
Senator, I think Senator McPike has a question for you.
Yes, sir.
We have a substitute or a line amendment?
Mr. Chair, Senator McPike, the substitute would make this a Section 1 bill and direct DHRM to convene a work group to identify and analyze options for allowing collective bargaining for public employees in the Commonwealth, and they shall consider some options that are mentioned in the introduced bill.
Yeah, I heard about the possible sub. I had some other questions though before we get to that. So Senator Lucas the chairman had a bill similar to this, but it only applied to firefighters and it mandated collective bargaining if a unit was formed and wanted to bargain. One of the issues with that was the fact that it would allow the collective bargaining of VRS benefits. Does your bill allow the collective bargaining of VRS benefits?
Mr. Chair, again, the legislative body and the administration has the power of the purse to decide whether or not something is allowable or not.
No, but the problem with VRS is that that's statutory. Only people that can change that is us. And so,
No, my bill does not allow that.
okay, there's
It's not
also a lot of
included
other benefits that are chiseled into code that relates to collective bargaining that this kind of conflicts with, I think, besides VRS. And I know the chairman had her bill carried over to next year, her own bill, because of the complexities associated with trying to accomplish this. And I think what we did was we carried hers over with a request that we have joint subcommittees look at it instead of the administration, who I'm not really sure how they feel about collective bargaining, but I have a pretty good idea. And so instead of a Section 1 concept, I thought doing what we did with the chairman's bill might make more sense if we're going to be looking at it anyway for firefighters, we look at everything at once.
Mr. Chair, I've gotten an indication that the House is open to passing this bill.
Okay, well, as Senator Norman says, you know, we don't really care what the House does.
Okay.
But we're used to say, I guess. But, well, the substitute would have the administration study this. Right. So my thought was to treat it the same way as we treated the chairman's bill. Okay, so it's been recommended that it's been moved that we recommend to carry the bill over and treat it the same as the chairman's bill and study it with a joint subcommittee between us and the House delegates to look at this over the next 12 months to figure out how to sort out the implementation issues. So we come up with a sort of, I think, well-thought-out approach which deals with all the various contingencies. Any further
Mr. Chairman?
discussion? Yes, sir.
Is that joint subcommittee of Finance and House
This committee.
Appropriations?
This sub and the House sub that would hear these types of issues, I think, was the idea.
Thank you.
Isn't that what we did, Mike, last week?
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I mean, it was a discussion of this general government subcommittee, but certainly behooves you all to work with the House as well on it.
Right. Right. I think that was the idea. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. 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 Anybody opposed? Consider if you want concerned about it, suggest you talk to the chair in the next 24 hours.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay, and last up, we got Bagby, who's got 625.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This has to do with SSI benefits and, right?
Yes.
Okay, and my recollection was in the Courts of Justice Committee. Where'd Kenman go? Okay, great. In the Courts of Justice Committee, we talked about how this prohibits, I guess, the SSI benefits from being garnished to collect fines and costs. And I thought in committee, somebody said that that's already illegal under federal law. But I think OES didn't agree with that, and we were trying to get an answer as to whether or not that was allowed or not, and our lawyer just left.
We got an answer.
Oh, what's the answer?
It is illegal, but the court system still wanted us to put it in.
To make it clear?
To make it very clear.
So the bill doesn't, so the bill basically just conforms Virginia law with federal law. And if it was happening before, wasn't supposed to be happening.
Correct.
And needs to stop happening.
It needs to stop immediately.
Okay. So that's basically what the bill does.
One question.
Yes, go ahead, Senator Morrison.
Would there be any requirement here, since we've been doing something inappropriately, that there'd be any revenue or avenue for folks to go back and claim previous?
Only if you want to create a fiscal impact.
I think, and if they wanted to do that, they could do it anyway. Yeah. They wouldn't need to do this because it's against the law. It's already federal law. If I'm wrong, say I'm wrong, someone. No one says I'm wrong.
Okay. Was there a motion?
Yeah, there was a motion
Okay,
and a
it's been
second.
moved and seconded. We recommend the bill for reporting. Any further discussion? Not. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Okay. Bill is recommended for reporting. Is
Thank
that
you. I was
clear?
hoping y'all was gonna get out here before 8 o'clock.
Yeah, we close.
Almost.
21 bills and we do? Oh, I forgot about McPike's bill. Okay, sorry. Go for it. What number is it?
Senate Bill
242.
242, Mr. Chairman. And this is the product from, actually Frank Ruff's work from last year on IT procurement, and Senate Bill 242 is the recommendation of the Public Body Procurement Work Group and does not have any fiscal impact, and moves recommend we report.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We recommend this bill for reporting without a fiscal impact. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? No. Okay, bill is recommended for reporting. That's our entire docket, right? Okay, committee will rise.